Across cultures and centuries, visiting someone, whether for diplomacy, celebration, or hospitality, often came with a ritual of gift-giving. But what was considered a polite or appropriate gift has varied wildly throughout history, from the strange and symbolic to the outrageously extravagant. These offerings reveal not just etiquette, but politics, power, and the values of the times. In the ancient world, gift-giving wasn't just an act of kindness. It was a form of negotiation, obligation, and social positioning. In ancient Mesopotamia, rulers exchanged goods such as livestock, textiles, and precious metals to demonstrate power and establish alliances. A gift wasn't merely a gesture, it was a statement of status. The Egyptians were particularly refined in their gifting practices. When envoys visited pharaohs, or when the pharaoh himself visited temples, gifts would often include alabaster jars filled with perfumed oils, jewelry inlaid with lapis lazuli, or carved ivory figurines. One particularly strange yet luxurious gift recorded was a mummified pet, presented as an eternal companion for the afterlife. In ancient China, gift-giving developed into a deeply formal tradition, especially during the imperial dynasties. Ceremonial tribute gifts were offered to the emperor or between officials. Items might include rare teas, exotic animals, jade carvings, or scrolls of fine calligraphy. Some gifts were highly symbolic. A live crane, for example, was thought to bring longevity. But unusual gifts were also used for political theater. In one recorded case, a delegation from a neighboring kingdom brought 1,000 duck eggs, each hand-painted and lacquered, packed in silk, and sent over several months. The message was subtle. Their patience, loyalty, and wealth knew no limits. In ancient Rome, visiting another household, especially during the Saturnalia festival, required small gifts. But among the elite, gifts quickly escalated. A host might present guests with silver tableware, rare spices, or even slaves. There are accounts of visitors bringing vials of ambergris, a substance produced in the digestive system of sperm whales and prized for its musky scent. Though strange, it was considered one of the most luxurious offerings one could make. Medieval Europe had its own distinct rules. When visiting a noble household, guests were expected to bring a gift to match the status of the host. Knights might bring swords or pieces of armor. Scholars might present rare manuscripts. One unusual gift recorded in the 12th century was a trained hawk delivered by a visiting lord, trained to hunt and wearing a custom-made golden beak cover. It was not just a gift, it was an emblem of prestige. Royal courts often exchanged gifts on a much grander scale. When Catherine de' Medici visited French nobles, she received extravagant items, like hand-embroidered tapestries depicting mythological scenes, or mirrored compacts inlaid with mother-of-pearl. In return, she once gifted a handcrafted automaton of a dancing figure, an intricate machine powered by a winding mechanism, centuries before robots would be imagined. The Tudor court in England was equally dramatic. When ambassadors visited Queen Elizabeth I, they brought everything from exotic birds to barrels of preserved lemons. In return, the Queen often gave luxurious textiles, such as lengths of velvet or silk infused with gold threads. But the most unusual diplomatic gift recorded during her reign came from the Ottoman Empire, a full-grown, live camel adorned with embroidered blankets and gilded harnesses. It was paraded through London before being housed in the royal menagerie. In Renaissance Italy, gift-giving became a performance. A guest might bring miniature sculptures carved from coral or a citrus tree grown in a ceramic pot painted with family crests. These were designed to show refinement, taste, and influence. On one occasion, a Florentine banker gifted a set of glass jars containing perfumed snow, a fragrant white powder imported from the East, meant to cool the skin during the summer heat. In Russia, during the reign of Peter the Great, foreign guests often brought items that combined function and excess: elaborately decorated telescopes, ornate globes of the known world, or scientific instruments made of gold and glass. In return, Peter was known to gift bejeweled sabers or fur-lined robes made from the pelts of over 100 Siberian sables. These weren't mere accessories, they were political tools. In Mughal India, visiting the emperor involved a ritual known as Nazro Tuhfa, the presentation of gifts. These might include Persian rugs, weaponry engraved with precious stones, or manuscripts bound in gold leaf covers. One Portuguese envoy recorded offering a fully functional mechanical clock shaped like an elephant, which played music and sprayed perfumed mist through a hidden compartment. The emperor responded with ivory chests filled with jewels, spices, and fine muslins. Not all gifts were about wealth. Some were deeply symbolic or peculiar. In early modern Scandinavia, a gift of goose fat was considered both practical and valuable during long winters. It could be used for cooking, lamp fuel, and even body insulation. In colder months, it was one of the most sought-after tokens of hospitality. In the Polynesian islands, hospitality and ritual were equally intertwined. When receiving guests from neighboring tribes, hosts would offer tapa cloth, carved wooden bowls, or kava root prepared for ceremonial drinking. These were not only valuable, but also culturally significant. A guest presenting a rare shell necklace or a feathered cloak was offering a sign of respect and spiritual connection. In 18th century France, before the Revolution, noble visitors often brought exotic foods as gifts. A jar of preserved tropical fruit or candied violets from Toulouse was a refined gesture. One record shows a guest arriving with a marzipan sculpture of the host's ancestral home entirely edible and painted with sugar dyes. It took weeks to make and was devoured in a single night. The American colonies had their own customs. In rural areas, guests often brought food, bacon, bread, fresh milk, or preserves. But among elites, imported goods like porcelain or perfume were common. George Washington received, at different times, engraved swords, saddles with gold trim, and even a barrel of Madeira wine aged for over a decade. During Japan's Edo period, omiyage, souvenir gifts, became an essential part of travel and visiting. Guests were expected to bring locally made items as tokens of respect. These could be sweets, pottery, or textiles chosen carefully to represent one's home region. But for the upper class, gifts reached extraordinary levels. Historical records include accounts of lacquer boxes inlaid with gold leaf, calligraphy brushes with ivory handles, and even bonsai trees groomed for over 50 years. Even in the Victorian era, when mass production made many goods more accessible, visiting gifts retained meaning. Hosts were often given items like handkerchiefs embroidered with initials, crystal inkwells, or music boxes playing familiar melodies. Some guests would bring something more intimate: locks of hair woven into jewelry or pressed flowers arranged between glass panes. Perhaps one of the most striking examples of gift symbolism comes from Ethiopia. In the late 19th century, Emperor Menelik II once received a Bible bound in solid gold from a European envoy. In return, he gave a ceremonial shield made of rhinoceros hide, painted with natural dyes and embedded with obsidian shards, a mix of artistry, tradition, and raw power. Today, a visiting gift might be as simple as a bottle of wine or a bouquet of flowers. But in the past, what one brought or failed to bring could shape reputations, cement alliances, or ignite rivalries. Gifts conveyed more than generosity. They revealed status, knowledge, and cultural fluency. Throughout history, these objects, strange, luxurious, symbolic, or practical, have traveled across deserts, sailed across oceans, and passed through the gates of palaces. They carried more than value. They carried meaning. Understanding what gifts people once exchanged is to understand how they viewed the world and each other. It is a reminder that generosity was never just about giving. It was about who you were, what you knew, and how far you were willing to go to be remembered. There's a lot more to discover about how people lived, what they valued, and the customs they followed throughout history. If you're interested in learning more, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future videos. And if you found this one helpful, feel free to give it a like.